The Little Match Girl. How cold it was! It had been snowing all day and was getting quite dark, for it was evening, the last evening of the year, New Year's Eve. Amid the cold and the darkness, a little girl with bare head and naked feet was roaming through the streets. When she left home, she had slippers on, but that was not of much use, for they were very large slippers, so large indeed that they had hitherto been used by her mother. Besides, she lost them as she hurried across the street to avoid two carriages that were driving at a fearful rate. One of the slippers was nowhere to be found, and the other was seized by a boy who shouted nasty things at her and ran away with it. So the little girl went along with her tiny naked feet that were quite red and blue from cold. She was carrying a number of matches in an old apron, and she held a bundle of them in her hand to sell to passers-by. But everybody was so busy on this New Year's Eve, and no one wanted to stop even for a moment in these freezing temperatures. She had not yet sold a single bundle of matches, and the day was drawing to a close. Alone, under the fluffy snowflakes, trembling with cold and hunger, she dragged herself from street to street. The flakes of snow covered her fair hair, but she didn't notice. Lights were streaming from all the windows, and it smelled so deliciously of all the dishes getting ready for the evening celebration. She stopped here and there, closed her eyes briefly, and resumed her walk. One last time, she offered her bundle of matches, but to no avail. Then, seeing a corner formed by two houses, of which one advanced more than the other, she crouched down, exhausted. She had drawn her little feet under her, but she felt colder and colder. She didn't dare to go home, for she had not sold any matches, and her father would beat her. Besides, it was just as freezing at home. Her little hands, almost numbed with cold, she said to herself, "What if I took a single match out of the bundle and warmed up my fingers?" And so she did. How it blazed, how it burned! It gave out a warm, bright flame, and it seemed to her that she was all of a sudden sitting before a large iron stove with burnished brass feet and a brass ornament at top. The fire warmed so delightfully. The little girl had already stretched out her feet to warm them too, but the flame went out. The stove vanished. She had only the remains of the burnt-out match in her hand. She struck a second match. It burned brightly, and where the light fell on the wall, there the wall became transparent, like a veil, so that she could see into the room. A snow-white tablecloth was spread upon the table, on which stood a splendid porcelain service. Dinner was served. Steam was rising from so many dishes, all tantalizingly delicious, so mouth-watering. And what was more delightful still, the dishes flew away and came in her direction, stopping right in front of the poor little girl. The match then went out, and nothing remained. The child lit a third match, and saw herself sitting under the most magnificent Christmas tree. How tall it was, how beautiful! Thousands of lights were burning on the green branches, and beautiful golden apples were hanging too. The little girl stretched out her hands towards them when the match went out. The lights of the Christmas tree rose higher and higher. The whole tree rose to the sky, suddenly filled with stars. "Oh, there is a star falling. Somebody is now dying, she said to herself. For her old grandmother, the only being who had loved and cherished her, and who was no more, had told her, when we see a star falling, on the other side, a being is going up to the heavens. She again struck a match. It was light all round, and in the brightness stood her old grandmother. "Grandmother!" cried the little one. "Oh, take me with you. I know you will go away when the match goes out. You will vanish like the warm stove and the delicious meal and the beautiful Christmas tree. Please, stay, or take me with you." And she made haste to rub the whole bundle of matches, for she wanted to be quite sure of keeping her dear grandmother near her. And the matches gave such a brilliant light that it was brighter than at noonday. Then the grandmother took her little girl in her arms, and both flew in brightness and in joy, so high, so very high, and then above was neither cold nor hunger nor anxiety. They were in the heavens. But next morning, in the corner by the house, the poor girl might be seen, leaning against the wall, with red cheeks and smiling mouth. She had been frozen on the last night of the old year. The child sat in the stiffness of death, still holding the matches, one bundle of which was burned. "What a stupid thing to do," said the heartless man. "How could she believe that it would warm her?" Others were shedding tears. No one imagined what a beautiful thing she had seen, and although she did suffer, she was now resting in perfect bliss within the loving embrace of her dear grandmother. It was the little match girl from the fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen, adapted and told by Relax Petso. Thank you, and thank you to all the children.